So part of what makes this Giants offense not terrible next year is that one, when you bring in a new offense or a new system, which is what Dayball is doing, it's going to be different. So the alternative to terrible could be not terrible, which is something that, like, for weapons that we know are good, like Saquon Barkley, is what we want. And part of what can make the offense good isn't that they have to bring someone in this year necessarily. Daniel Jones going into his fourth year is someone who we could actually see do something. Now, usually you don't see like upside in quarterbacks that haven't shown too much promise over their first 3 years of their career. But one thing that we talked about, which shouldn't reference earlier in the podcast, but I will, and I will talk about how we talked about Lamar Jackson had this really good, clean PFF pass grade, but his actual pass grade wasn't fantastic because, well, the situation has just been terrible. And to be fair for Daniel Jones, that it's never really been something awesome for him, the situation. He's had Joe Judge and he's had Jason Garrett, and it hasn't been a high-volume offense in any way, and so it's hard for a quarterback to do a lot. But we like Daniel Jones as a fantasy asset where he's at because, A, there's rushing upside, which we like. He's someone who can have like a 20-25% carry rate, which is, well, that's very solid, something we like. But then the part I was hitting about with the pass grade, his second year, which is when we like to see quarterbacks be good, his clean PFF pass grade was 90.5. His actual pass grade that year was 74.4, which is like a 15 difference. That says he was almost never kept clean, and when he was actually Danny Dimes. He was doing well. And then we go into his third year, and he last year got banged up. He actually, he had a 71.2 PFF pass grade, which isn't bad. That's like that 70 to 75 is pretty average for what we talk about. But we're looking at new scheme brought in. His floor in fantasy is someone who can rush. So when you're buying him at value, you're buying something that should be fine, even if it's not going to be a fantastic situation or this blow up. But there is possibility for a Daniel Jones blow up. Like, it's for a quarterback to blow up year 4, it's not unheard of at all. Like talking about like Cam Newton. His MVP year in year 5, like, he was not a good passer, and then year 5 he has like an 88 clean PFF pass grade, which is really good. Like, he just has, that's what quarterbacks can do. And for someone who has shown us that when he's kept clean can be a good quarterback and he rushes, I mean, I'll take that at value, and it could make this offense better. Another reason to like Saquon Barkley.
Okay, yeah. You're kind of selling me on him because this is all Ian's thing, you know. Dear viewer, listener, please don't come at me. This is all Ian. If this doesn't pan out, if it does pan out, then I was with him the whole time, nodding off to the side. But I think you are kind of selling me on this idea because it is pretty cheap Konami points. Even if he isn't very good, he's cheaper than a lot of the other like 1-year guys in the league. So even if he is a 1-year guy, he rushes a decent amount and could throw more touchdowns than he did last year, which was very little off the top of my head.
I got one for you because I'm looking at Keep Trade Cut. Okay. Who would you rather have? They're completely even in value. Daniel Jones or Carson Wentz?
Damn, that's tough. I think in startups, like I've done a couple startups and I've stumbled into having Wentz on my team, and I think I drafted him over Daniel Jones, so I guess that's my answer. But now you're kind of selling me on Daniel Jones and they're rushing, but they're both high QB2s or mid QB2s.
Yeah, and they could both be like have around the same production next year, but when we're looking at upside,
it's just a matter of upside.
And
but then
also,
the floor for Wentz is higher, maybe. I don't know. When you're a starter and then you get traded,
actually no. When you're on your third team,
right? That's what I'm thinking.
It's Washington has no, besides that they traded for him. It's not out of the question to see him move up and get a quarterback. Or I mean, sure, that could be true for the Giants, but
I don't think they draft a quarterback.
I don't think they draft a quarterback at all because
next year,
it's a new regime. Like it's a whole new front office, new regime. I think in year 4, like I talk about, they want to see like at least what they have with Daniel Jones. I know that can be like a cliche, but that's like they invested high draft capital, so
There've been
like,
some quotes going around that they're like going to give him a chance, and they think that he hasn't been given a fair shot by the surrounding. Like you said, his surroundings have been awful with coaching, O line, weapons haven't been good. Like they could definitely they're probably going to give him a fair shot. They signed Tyrod Taylor as their backup, and so that doesn't mean much, except it means they're not bringing in another backup quarterback, I guess.
Yeah, and for Daniel Jones, like, and the Giants, there's quarterbacks, like the quarterbacks out there remaining. They could get Jimmy Garoppolo, something I don't think they want to do. When you have a new regime, I think like they're building from the ground up. The last thing you want to do is bring in a veteran quarterback who's not actually very good. And then the other one would be Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield is a conundrum to them in terms of they could just have Daniel Jones. They're highly drafted. You have to pay them, their high rookie salary. And you wouldn't have to spend a pick or anything. You already have Daniel Jones in-house.
There's no reason to trade
Baker Mayfield would make no sense.
Yeah.
And then quarterbacks in this draft, they're not exactly great this year.
They have the 2 high picks from the Bears and their own, and I think I'm not an NFL like draft expert or anything, but I've heard rumors that they want to trade out one of them to 2023, and so it's like insurance for next year if they want to go a route of a quarterback next year, and then they focus on like picking O lineman this year to help Daniel Jones in his like to see if he actually has something. That could be that's certainly what we could see from the Giants if they were to do that. They could easily just pick like an O lineman and then a defensive player, and then try to build up their team in the trenches or something. I don't know. It's a fantasy football podcast. I don't know NFL mock drafts.
Well, and if we're like talking about if you have Carson Wentz and you could just swap him out for Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz, besides the fact that the Commanders really don't have commitment to him, there's also that he's going into his 7th year compared to Daniel Jones, who's going into his 4th. And then there's that Carson Wentz is like a 11-12% carry rate, which really doesn't do all that much for you. It's more of a scrambler type, I would say. So for fantasy football, you're not getting all that much from it. Whereas Daniel Jones, his is higher, so you have that. And he's younger. And I mean, there's just like he's not a sexy option, but alternatively at where he's valued, you could just swap Carson Wentz out for him. And
all right. I think you're selling me on that. So we're in a league where you have Jones and I have Wentz. So let's do the trade.
Okay. But have I sold you to the point that you'd add a 1 on to Wentz?
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
You have not. Nah. So I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to pay first for Daniel Jones. At market value, though, I think you make some good points that he could be a decent QB3.
And I mean, let's just throw some random narratives out there. Dayball took Josh Allen, who was bad. Josh Allen was bad.
He was bad at passing, but then had the carry, and then Dayball made him good at passing. So now he's going to make Daniel Jones good at passing. Perfect.
And I mean, actually, if I just want to like hit the narrative like just on the head, through 2 years, Daniel Jones was a much better quarterback than Josh Allen.
There you go. It works. The math works. This is analytics at its finest. No.
Yeah, so basically I'm telling you could spend your round 15 startup or 16, who even knows, on Daniel Jones, and you could be looking at Josh Allen, the number 1 startup pick. You can
talk about value gains.
Value gains.
It'd be funny if we look back on this in a year and we're actually right. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be really, really funny.
I'd cut out the part where I was laughing and
just sound serious. That's hilarious. So I did manage to make you talk about Daniel Jones for 10 minutes. So this unfortunately is going to be its own video.
Oh man. Shoot. Well, I actually am just finding out from you that this makes me a Daniel Jones truther, which
it does.
Oh.
No one else is with you except for you're just on a lone island by yourself, standing Daniel Jones. You're a truther now. That's all it is. It's okay. There's a good argument for it. You've sold me somewhat on it. No, that's always good. I'm always open to new perspectives. That's a good new perspective.
Shoot.